Hello, welcome to my COVID-19 2020 tarot reading. What can we expect from COVID-19 in 2022? What will be the overall damage, and is it going to get better or worse? We have a lot of variants that we've been talking about, especially Omicron. That's the one that's emerged recently that people are kind of worried about. And are these going to get worse? Will they get more lethal? Can we expect these vaccines to help us, or will they prove futile in the long run? And will these new variants lead to us forcing us to, batten down the hatches, as your pirate friends say? Because will things be closed up again? Stores, restaurants, bars? What level of openness, traveling internationally, for example, will we have next year? Perhaps the coronavirus will finally leave us alone because it develops good manners and it doesn't want to see us cry. Let's find out. Did you check out my videos for the economy in 2022? And also, what about your personal 2022, the horoscopes that I did for every sign of the zodiac? Do you want to know about your specific year? Check that out, because I gave some very close details about what you can do to prepare for next year and make sure that it's the best year possible for you. And while you're at it, why don't you just hit the subscribe button and make sure you never miss a beat. The big word on this street is that Omicron has arrived, and while this sounds like a superhero villain, it's actually just the next letter in the Greek alphabet for which these variants are being tagged. And what happens when we reach the end of the Greek alphabet? Is this just the Illuminati's way of making sure that we all know the Greek alphabet? What's next? The periodic table? And I wonder if children living today, here, now, will recall in some future era their time during certain letters of the Greek alphabet. We thought Omicron was bad, but then Pi came along. Yikes. Yikes indeed, future person. So here we have the cards that came up in my reading. The Knight of Swords, the Seven of Swords, the King of Cups, and the Seven of Discs. So let's take a look at this. In general, I thought of this as the year, and each of these being a quarter of the year. So we begin with the Knight of Swords, and this is a very aggressive attack on the coronavirus. I see it as like this is just further implementation of strategy, vaccines, and so on. So a very I think this is a strong start to the year. And then after that, we see the Seven of Swords, which is, I think of it as a card that is like a victory, but not necessarily the satisfying victory that you would hope for. Something has turned, some level of tide has turned at this point. And I think the first half of the year is a very strong, aggressive assault on the coronavirus through vaccines. That's the strategy that we're employing the most. But beyond that, let's take a look. So we have in the fall this King of Cups. This is very interesting because the King of Cups is, cups are all about emotions, and this is about as strong as an emotion you can feel, King of Cups. So for whatever reason, we're experiencing this strong emotion. And again, I'm only reading the cards based on the energy that I'm feeling, and I'm feeling the energy of this some kind of exasperated feeling. And I'm trying to figure out, is this coming from a sense of victory over the coronavirus, or is this coming from a new variant, a new assault that we're going to have to deal with? It's hard to read that, I admit, but there's something in the fall that is, we're either kind of emotionally just burnt out and drained from all this fight on the coronavirus, and we're like, is this ever going to end? Are these new variants ever going to end? Or is this going to be like some level of new horror that we're experiencing? We're like, so it's hard to tell. I feel like it's not good either way, though. Like it just feels like overall a sense of exhaustion and fatigue from having to constantly face this, and that it seems like a battle without end, a war that we have no end game in sight, For the fall Seven of Discs, this is, especially in these circumstances, this looks almost like a grave digger burying, corpses and so on. I feel like this is just the level of resignation and catharsis that we felt through this year, struggling with this, never quite having a clear victory, and just the overall state of things. So my overall reading for coronavirus in 2022 is not super optimistic. It's pretty just constant battling, attempts to restrain the virus as much as possible, continuing to wear masks, continuing to minimize, wide open social settings, but still happening. I think that's the level that we're going to have for a while. It's just this level of the sameness of, you do your best to protect against the virus. Perhaps you get your vaccine if there's a new vaccine, but it's not going away, because the thing about viruses is they reproduce at least thousands, maybe millions of times more quickly than humans. They reproduce every day, so that allows mutations to come in, and that's where these variants are coming from, these constant mutations through the speed of their replication. So keeping up with that is a challenge that we're going to have to face as humans, and not just for this coronavirus, but for other viruses and other diseases that we may face in the future. The good thing that has come out of this is that there's been an enormous amount of research, and until, maybe in some future day this will overall allow us to live healthier lives by not having these micro-targeting of specific diseases, but that we can defend our bodies in ways that bypass all diseases. That's kind of the goal. And as we transition out of our human bodies to some extent, augmentating our bodies with devices and therapies and so on that are going to alter our definitions of humanity. Like, we can dream of what would be a perfect world in which we don't have to even deal with diseases at all. And I think that's that awareness of that knowledge of, we've seen that is possible. I mean, we know it is possible because that's when you can imagine something, you can conceive it, then that's the first step. So it's kind of like a lot of the inventions that Leonardo talked about in his notebook. By conceiving it, you create this field of potentiality for which it might exist. So the desire for that to happen is what allows it to happen. And I think in the long run, it will be, all this research that's going on is going to benefit us enormously. Is there something you'd like me to address specifically in one of these video tarot readings? Leave a comment below and let me know. Also be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and so on. If you want a personal tarot reading or life coaching, I do that on superpeer.com. Check out the link below. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye.